Greetings all, praise the King. Jah, welcome to Eyewitness. We are unscripted, source of truth, supporting the struggle for international justice. The Babylon hate this. Most of what the Babylon does is written down. Most of the people you see on the screen are reading as they're speaking. And this is so that they can use characters. Somebody can use somebody to convince somebody else of something. So we are here to share our thoughts and hopefully be able to have a discussion, although we know these so-called platforms are not promoting this material. And even if it did have views, these platforms could take those views away, or otherwise ghost us, or just delete our accounts altogether. That couldn't stop us. You know, the truth prevails. Babylon is on the losing side. Satan will try to convince his followers that he will ultimately win. This is a fallacy. Today, we're speaking more about masks. You know, the symbolism that these masks represent. Because, you know, we're being told the masks are necessary, you know, please wear a mask. In some states, you know, some places, the requirement has been lifted. So there's no longer an imposition. However, if you go into the stores, you still see a sign saying, please wear a mask. Even masks required in this establishment. And if you read a little closer, you'll see effective up until this date. Last one. Obviously, when you go into these places, you see a lot of people wearing these masks. And so, you know, we're taught or brought up to, you know, please the crowd. And if we don't, you know, it will make our life harder. So, it's not necessarily naturally, but some kind of instinctive value in us says, you know, all the people around us are doing this, we better just do this. Well, what is this actually doing? It feeds the beast. Because what it's saying is, it sends a message saying, follow the way of the world. You know? What people are doing around us. And then it's giving a further reinforcement to this notion that this deadly virus is around us, take our lives at any moment. But we're not here to dispute whether the virus is deadly, whether people have died from the virus. I have a friend who we haven't hung out in a while because he likes to wear the mask, or he prefers to wear the mask. And I'm saying, you know, but I tell him, hey, if I was in your position, I would do the same thing, because he's older and his body's been weakened. So, but however, we're going to put this into perspective and say, you know, is this virus worse than a common flu? Now, I know most people wouldn't want to hear that because the pedophile's been barking for all these years. And he's saying these kinds of things, and he's saying, don't wear a mask, don't wear a mask. But if you go into the previous studies, you'll see this kind of works has a psychological impact on people to do what the pedophile doesn't say to do. For a certain large segment of the population. Remember, the pedophile never got elected by majority rule, you know, so-called democracy. You know, the system, and according to his words, it was rigged the first time. So, obviously you can't trust what the man says. And this is how they're driving the election process, to get people to vote against the person they hate. Whether they really hate him or not. They don't like him enough to go and vote for the person, the other person. The point is that that's part of psychological operation, to get you to wear the mask. Because you're going to do whatever the pedophile doesn't do. In the meantime, as we've mentioned in the previous videos, he's promoting the vaccine. You see? So that's a switch up there, because you're saying, well, this guy's kind of a fool. He knows, because he talked to the other guy, Bob, and he told him it was real bad. He knows, you see? But he doesn't want people to do this because he just wants to be cool or invite people in the crowd. That's on the surface what you see. Underneath it, he's promoting the vaccines. You say, well, if he's like, you know, about the mask about this way, but he is promoting the vaccine, then you know the vaccine must be really the solution. You know what I'm saying? For the other segment of the population. So then they go and take the very vaccine, which happens to be, you know, his supporters happen to be the ones that would be so reluctant to take the vaccine. You see? So they got to get those people in. Now the youth's going to fall whatever the older generations do, because they really don't have rights, and if they do have rights, they don't know what they are. As in most adults don't either. So you've got to target certain segments of the population that you think will be resistant. You know? And they use the pedophile as the tool, the mechanism of control. Now, you know, why is this mostly symbolic? Well, you know, are the masks working? You know, we'll never really know, right? But the thing is that if the masks were effective, then you would have thought the virus would have went down after the people started wearing the masks. Except we kept being told, so many people are dying, oh, we're breaking new records. You know, day after day, till this point. See? And more people, you know from looking around, are wearing masks now than ever. So why, well, if it was effective, then that would show. Now, they're going to point the fingers and blame the people that didn't wear the masks, or the people that decided to get together for Thanksgiving. But let's be realistic, you know. This right here was an imposition by the public, by the community, ultimately, so that even though this was mandated initially by the so-called state, it became something of a community-controlled measure, where people are the ones enforcing this so-called rule. It's an underwritten rule. It doesn't exist. Yet, this is a way of experimentation to see how you can get the public to enforce rules that don't even exist. Now, why would that be? Well, because that man realizes, if that man keeps, you know, telling people what to do, right, and this and that. I mean, how many laws, how many books does he fill the Library of Congress with? You know, it's illogical, you know, to have a system that really nobody even knows. You try to fight your case, as you was told, some kind of constitutional amendment gave you some kind of right to be able to defend yourself. And them people won't let you do it because you ain't followed this little technicality or that. And nothing was exactly perfect the way that they required. And that's what they do. It's based on this language of the English. You know, that's really the basis. And on top of that, you have your common law system. Yeah. But it uses this language as the basis, and the language itself was created to exclude people. It wasn't created to make this one, blessed, united world in harmony and peace. And now you're seeing the effects. People don't know what the system is, so it doesn't make sense to them. You see, because some people from whatever you want to call it, Latino countries, they don't like the American football. They like the real football, soccer. And when you talk to them, sometimes they might say, we don't understand those rules. Football has a lot of little technicalities to it. And so by using logic, they're able to decide that this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. And so they go with the game that makes sense to them. This is the same kind of system. But see, if you got the world around you, you could call it a kind of new age socialism. I mean, there's a difference between a social environment where people are united on a common aspect of prosperity for all, and socialism, which is just another mechanism of control. And this is showing how it works through symbols, through getting people to agree, to consent, to an idea. And where is that idea going? That's maybe the most important aspect that we need to examine, is where does this all go? We're being told that there's a new strand out. Yeah? This reminds you of the terrorism of after 9/11, and we heard about Al-Qaeda so much that people stopped listening, and maybe people was trying to figure out, wait a minute, 9/11 happened, somebody sent somebody's military over to somebody else's land, and they were supposed to eradicate this group, and that didn't happen. Talking about the Taliban. But on the front, it was Al-Qaeda, because remember the U.S. military has gone after Taliban for 20 years because somebody said that they let bin Laden stay for the night. Now you have Al-Qaeda on the cover, on the front note, but behind the scenes, really the Taliban is the focus. But they continue to use Al-Qaeda, to the point where people started to wonder, they put all this into eradicating this group and were unsuccessful. Both sides. Now, they got a new one out called ISIS. So you see how that works. Was people were wondering what happened. Somebody was saying Al-Qaeda was dismantled and this kind of thing. Next thing you know, ISIS shows up. Yeah, so this is the same. Now we got a new strain. They call the mutated version or something. They got some kind of real negative word. And this one is 50%. That's what they tell us. 50% more susceptible to be spread. The scientists figured it out. You got a new strain. You might think this is the new age terrorism. It's not going away. Somebody called it an epidemic. We heard the word pandemic. But see, epidemic is like It's not going anywhere. Yeah. Now they're scanning your forehead when you go to board a flight or something. You know? I mean, is scanning your temperature really enough to tell somebody that they have this particular strain of virus? So they're going to take it to the next step. And they're going to begin their testing on people wherever they go. Of course, they're going to be using their smartphone and this kind of thing. But it's another way for them to require for people to be tracked. And you know what? If you don't agree with it, boy, oh boy, you're putting everyone in danger. That's what they say. See? You got people riding around in their cars with the windows up and they're wearing a mask. You tell me that's not symbolism. You know, there's no requirement of what kind of mask you wear. You could wear a bandana. You wear a cheap dollar store, knockoff. You could go and get the whole gas mask, which would probably be the only thing that would be effective. You see people, when they go to sneeze, they put their mask down, they sneeze, because who's going to sneeze into the mask? Do you expect Babylon to be giving out masks forever? No. They're looking to inject people with the thing they call the vaccine. But it won't end there. It won't end there. Because they're going to continue to test people and track people based on this so-called threat. Now, all these kinds of things are happening as a result. You got companies firing huge amounts of their workforce. Evictions, they say up to looking up to 7.5% of the population of the entire state, third most populous state in this country, are looking at eviction, like right now. The services were cut. You go into a library, it used to be 3 times as many computers, or twice as many computers. They're gone. You see, the staffs, the municipalities are saving money because they've cut services. And they have an excuse. The pretext. These things are happening around us because we're moving into a new era, the end times. Babylon is gearing for what is to come. They are protecting themselves. The people, the man, they don't need the people in the bottom, because they've been able to devise these machines that do the work that people did. It sounds real simple. It sure is. And it's nothing new. See? And people are supposed to find a new place to fit in. That's not going to happen. So this is a perfect storm for them, because they can inflict these viruses out of nowhere, one after another, and at the same time accomplish their other goals. All praise to Him.